else joins, but let us not fall behind on the program. So it's my absolute pleasure this afternoon to welcome Prof. Nicoleen Coetzee, who happens to also be an associate professor in the Department of Psychology at UP. And Prof. Coetzee does extensive research on psychophysiological well-being and also ill-being of adults and adolescents. So in this 20-minute session, we are going to learn a lot about the importance of self-care. Thank you very much, Prof. Nicoleen, for being with us this afternoon, and we look forward to the session.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure. I'm just going to share my slides. Okay, can everyone see?
Yes,
yeah,
thank you.
My apologies. As I said previously, my apologies. If I switch on my camera, everything on my computer freezes. So hopefully you can go online and look up one of my terrifying pictures. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about self-care. Now, Marie actually asked me to make this a rather practical session, but as I was collating the slides, I realized that I'll have to go into a bit of preacher mode because there are certain things that you need to know before you can actually take care of yourself. So let me move on and tell you what this is. Okay, so I actually worked in a slide, as you can see here, on self-compassion, and I'll share with you in a moment why I did this. So for now, I just want you to know that self-compassion involves being compassionate to yourself, especially during the difficult times. And I think at the University of Pretoria, as I don't know, I've been here now for a while, and it feels sometimes for me, the longer I am with the university, the more problems there are. Okay, so self-compassion actually means being kind and understanding towards yourself without judging yourself, and that's very important. You must remember that you're just a human and not Superman, superperson, or superwoman. So self-compassion is expressing kindness towards yourself, especially during difficult and stressful times. So a very important component of self-compassion is that you need to reduce your negative self-talk and stop dwelling on mistakes that you've made in the past. But I'll tell you again in a bit on how to do that. And now we get to self-care, and this is why I've built in the part on self-compassion, because I've discovered that self-care involves you taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. But the problem with self-care is that you can actually go through the motion. You can take a long bath, you can eat a chocolate, but you can still be judgmental towards yourself and say, oh, here I go again. I'm eating a chocolate. It's going to make me fat. Oh, I'm drinking a glass of wine. And it's only 4 o'clock now. What's wrong with me? So self-care can be done without self-compassion. And therefore, I'm going to refer to the rest, for the duration of the slides, I'm going to refer to compassionate self-care, because that is what we actually need to display towards ourselves. So let's see what does compassionate self-care and your physiological health entail. So the first thing that everybody needs to understand is that severe stress and burnout cause depression and anxiety. I've done a study a couple of years ago, and I can tell you the academic staff were rather burnout was rather prevalent among the staff, and most of the staff indicated what kept them going was actually their research and their passion about their research and their students. So stress, burnout, depression, and anxiety are psychophysiological in nature. So making that statement, people need to understand that when we stress, when we experience burnout, and one of those two can cause depression and anxiety. People, there's something that we call in psychology a secondary anxiety. So it doesn't mean you have a mood disorder per se, but it can mean that you're experiencing a symptom of something bigger, which can be either stress or burnout. And just note that burnout is an excessive form of um, stress experienced during a long time. So because it's psychophysiological in nature, it doesn't impact you only on a psychological level, but it also impacts you on a physiological level. So what we've seen is that especially when you're depressed, there is, for example, low levels of dopamine and serotonin present in your body. So my advice to you today is, and you all know yourself the best. So if this depression or if the anxiety is becoming debilitating, then a trip to your medical health care, and that can be a psychiatrist, your GP, any medical health care provider that you can trust and that you know you can have an open conversation with, that will become essential. Now, what scares me the most is that I often deal with staff that will approach me and say, listen, I'm depressed, but I don't want to take um, antidepressants because I've heard that you can become dependent on them. The thing is, research on psychopharmacology has advanced so far. I actually, 2 or 3 years ago, I did my certificate in psychopharmacology, and I was amazed at the different types of antidepressants that's out there. I mean, for example, we get antidepressants now that deal with your serotonin levels, that can help you with your serotonin levels. Burnout people have low, for example, they have low epinephrine, or you know it as adrenaline. So there's an antidepressant out now that will actually then stimulate the formulation of adrenaline in your body as well as serotonin. So there's a lot of things out there tailor-made for the type of depression that you're experiencing. And these things are designed in such a way that you only need to take them for between 6 weeks to 3 months. And your doctor can wean you off it as soon as you become better. So that for me is very important, that people realize that we need to go a psychopharmacology, the route of psychopharmacology. At Denmark, I visited for research. I once visited a psychologist there, and she said something very important to me, and it was that people that don't make use of some psychopharmacological interventions, sorry people, it's late, that they have difficulty to express themselves in psychotherapy. So the brain at that stage is still malfunctioning because there's this imbalance of serotonin, dopamine, and other hormones. And also remember that you have this extreme levels of cortisol. And my research has also discovered that cortisol, for example, actually eat away at parts of your brain when you're so stressed. So that causes this whole imbalance in your brain. And if that imbalance isn't addressed, then nothing you'll do will help you get out of this sluggish position that you are currently in. And the thing with psychopharmacology is you can go to a homeopath if you don't believe in doctors, and you can get a natural, something natural. I know big pharmacies like this, Tim and Clicks, there are stuff that you can buy off a rack if you feel blue. And then, as you can see, my other picture there illustrate the actual medication. So let's talk about compassionate self-care within the context of your mental health. So what is also important is that if you are down, if you are low in energy, if you have a need to speak to somebody, don't keep this need or everything negative in your life. Don't bottle it up in yourself. Um, a big problem for me is that all of us has that one friend that you will go to and you will say, listen, I had a bad week this week with my students, lectures were challenging, etc., etc. And that friend will go, oh, but you're lucky you still have a job. That is not, how can I say, that's not the right way actually to say, or the right thing to say to somebody that's going through a tough patch. All our problems are unique to ourselves. So if you experience a problem, it will have, as I've said previously, it will have a physiological impact on your body, because your body is not used to that type of stress. Our bodies has what we call a baseline, and our bodies function best as baseline. And everything that disturb that baseline puts us in a place where we don't experience what we call homeostasis. And then the body will start activating so that you release more adrenaline, so that you can release more cortisol, etc., etc. And as I've said in my previous slide, when those things are released, then yeah, especially with cortisol, you will become depressed. Adrenaline, I want to warn you that your body is also like a car engine. So you can run out of fuel. Your body can get to a stage where it say to you, listen, I don't have any more adrenaline to generate and to give to you. So if you go through such an experience, please talk to a close friend, a family member, or even a psychologist, or anyone who's willing to listen to you. You might come across a stranger at the, let's say you're waiting for your license, and the strangers say to you, listen, I'm having a bad day, and you can go, oh, I'm having a bad day too. And if a stranger say, share, we all know when to not overshare. But yeah, if somebody is willing to listen to you, talk about your problems. Be congruent. That is very important for me. We as lecturers, we tend to, if we're angry, we just keep this mask on, and we go home and we can't be angry, because we have people at home that we need to keep happy, and this mask remain, and this mask remain. And over time, again, you end up with all of these negative feelings, all of this anger bottled up in yourself, and then at some stage the bottle just overflow. So be congruent. It is fine to say to somebody, listen, I'm angry, give me a little bit of space. um, a couple of years ago, maybe this is TMI, but I want to let you know that what I'm sharing with you is not things that I've learned in my ivory tower. It's things that I actually had experienced myself. So a couple of years ago, I was in a very bad a freak accident of all things, and experienced a whole lot of PTSD afterwards. And most of you know that PTSD comes with a lot of anger. So what I did to get rid of the anger is I bought myself a punching bag, and every time I got so angry, I'll come home and I'll punch my back or I'll kick my back. But I got rid of that anger. Amazingly, one of my students conducted research, and he discovered that doing mixed martial arts is also a great catalyst for letting go of anger. And another student of mine also conducted a study, found that playing violent video games, and a lot of the parents in the session is not going to agree with me, but unfortunately the research indicated that games can actually also serve as a catalyst for your anger. So next time when you're angry and your child is on the Wii or the Xbox or whatever, tell them, listen, I want to play Call of Duty with you, and get rid of that anger. Yes, there's already somebody who's doing first-person shooter games. So yeah, the other thing what is important about psychotherapy is that research on epigenetics has indicated that psychotherapy could change the structure of your DNA code. And I think you've all heard about generational trauma. So generational trauma is currently a big thing in South Africa. But what is not so well known in our country is that stress, anxiety, depression, and burnout can alter your DNA code. And if you're a young person, that you can actually then transfer that to your children. And as I say, but going through psychotherapy can actually change the structure of your DNA code. Um, I don't know how many of you know Prof. Michael Pepper. Just of the cuff, he did research, for example, on mothers who were alcoholics, and when they took blood tests, all these mothers were pregnant, they realized that their babies had a predisposition to become alcoholics once they are grown. And then he placed these mothers in psychotherapy for something like 6 to 12 months. And once the mums were done, and they looked at the mother's DNA code, they found that their DNA structure changed. And when they conducted blood tests, they also realized that the DNA code of the unborn fetuses were also changing. So psychotherapy really is very important. And as you can see, what that illustration shows is that talking to someone, that that brain fog that you experience when you're stressed, or that I don't make anymore, or my environment doesn't make sense anymore. Another person who is actually not in your situation, who's looking from the outside inwards, can help you make sense of what you are going through. Okay, and this brings us to compassionate self-care and your mind. And what is very important is that you need to practice self-talk. Again, people, you're going to hear me refer a lot to research. As was said in the introduction, I do a lot of research on languishing, or what is it's also known as ill-being. And this research has shown us that in 75% of the cases we talk negatively to ourselves. We are prone to be unkind to ourselves. And what is scary is that it takes 3 seconds. When you think negatively about yourself, it takes 3 seconds for a new neural network to form that will contain that negativity. It will take 3 to 6 months of psychotherapy or positive self-talk talk to actually get rid of that negative neural network and establish a positive neural network in its place. So what I always suggest is that if you display negative self-talk, carry a journal with you. I know it might sound infantile, but I promise you it works. So every time you have a negative thought about yourself, write it down and then follow it up with 3 positive statements. So if you, for example, say, oh, I'm useless, then follow that up with 3 statements that you know that is true, such as, I am a good parent, I am a good lecturer, I am a good colleague. And people always ask me, Anthony Townsend's actually, I'll talk about is actually an ex-student of mine. People, and I'll talk about the psychedelics now. Um, yeah, but as I say, the mind is a funny thing, or the brain is a funny thing. What we've discovered is if a brain hears something 3 times, or if you actually uh, um, read something 3 times, then the brain starts to believe it. This is why you will hear. So um, take note. Next time, I'm not into politics, but I love studying nonverbal behavior because it tells me a lot about anxiety in other people. But look at politicians and listen to what they do. Politicians, if they want to drive a point home, they will actually proclaim it 3 times. They will repeat it 3 times because they've been informed by the psychologist on their teams. If you say something 3 times, the brain starts to believe it. And then people, some of you, we're going to get to exercise, but I know a lot of people has trouble uh, 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 um, with doing muscle relaxation exercises. And again, a student of mine and I, we actually developed a very simplistic breathing exercise during COVID, and uh, and we called it controlled breathing. And we taught students to breathe in on the count of 3 and to breathe out on the count of 3 until they find a rhythm. And then you go breathing in 1, 2, 3, breathing out 1, 2, 3. And once you do that for 5 to 10 minutes, the body will start to realize as soon as I start with controlled breathing, it will mean I am in a better space and I'll get rid of the anxiety. So what happens is your body associate controlled breathing with a reduction in anxiety. So the more you practice it, the better your chances of getting into a space where you can actually where you will find yourself as soon as you take that one controlled breath, your body will go back to a relaxed state because it tells the brain, I am in control. I'm not spinning out of control, and I don't need to be uh, uh, um, anxious. Speaking about the psychedelics, people, yes, there is things going on in South Africa around psychedelics. I recently, I'm running out of time. Okay, so let me just rush through the slides, Robert, and you can contact me about the psychedelics. So, with regards to compassionate self-care and spirituality, please meditate, practice mindfulness. There are awesome stuff online on how to do that. And okay, and also practice your spirituality. Exercise is good when it comes to physical health, but high impact exercise, as I say, is, or I didn't say that, but you can run out of adrenaline, and high impact exercise, for that you need adrenaline, and you can run out of adrenaline. So rather get enough rest, like 9 to 11 hours of sleep. Okay, then with your work environment, set boundaries and enforce them. Diarize your breaks and take them regularly. Take enough breaks when you work on your computer because uh, uh, um, digital burnout is a real thing, and learn to say no. Okay, and then people, there's tips for digital burnout, and then try to spend time in the environment. The environment we have discovered is a really, really good, has a really good impact on our stress levels because we actually, as humans, we evolved in the environment. We know it's a safe place, and there you can see play with the dog. Up in the right-hand corner is a weighted soft toy. So anytime that you can stay in the environment or be in the environment to do that. Sorry, I'm rushed now. I was actually told I've got 20 minutes for the presentation, not 10. People, please spoil yourself, give yourself a chocolate, take a long bath, listen to your favorite music. Thank you. Any questions?
So much. Thank you so much, Prof. Yeah, I also wish that we could have spent more time. I think this is so valuable, and oftentimes, especially in our field of higher education, we don't actually dedicate enough time to matters such as self-care. And I think it was really such a wonderful takeaway, the idea of self-care with self-compassion. Colleagues, unfortunately, we've run out of time, and I'm sure there are many of you that would have liked to ask questions. But Prof was kind enough to indicate that you are welcome to make contact with her if you would like to discuss any of these important issues further. Thank you once again, Prof Nicoleen, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.